hold on, main chat. Okay, our recap will start on page XXV, and that's going to be, it's going to end on XXVI. Our study tonight will start on page XXVI, though we work out, and end on page XXVIII. Okay, are there any announcements?
I have one. We had a small but mighty group conscience last night, and for those home group members, keep your eyes out in the next few days for the minutes to be sent out to everybody.
My name is Jamie, grateful recovered alcoholic. Area 64 assembly will be coming up on the 15th, 16th, and 17th of this month. And I will have a report that will be sent out via email after that. Thank you.
Okay.
And good evening, everyone. I'm a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Trish. Welcome to the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation, followed by our family's foglight prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Terry, aka Pickle Chips. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to start our meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing, as to not distract others or yourself.
We suggest...
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
We suggest we observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. A friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share. We will call on you in the order hands are raised.
From the forward to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are focus on your breath and posture. Breathe in God and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study. And let's bring in those cute little monks.
Okay, let's have the secretaries. Oh, no, we have the fog light prayer. Sorry.
God, let your light shine through us like a fog light, so that those who are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Okay, now we can do the secretaries.
Now we can do
report.
it. Oh my gosh.
Take it away, Donald.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Donald, and I'm a very grateful, recovered but not cured alcoholic. And thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for about an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards if you dare to show up.
Donald, you missed a spot. Back up a little bit.
Oh, hey, there it is. I found it. Hi, my name is Donald. I'm your recovered alcoholic secretary. And I've asked Kenny tonight to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain how many people in this group identified as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Hey, Kenny, why don't you take it away for us?
I'm Kenny. I'm a recovered alcoholic. The recovered statement. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. Page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Love that. Okay, so thank you for joining us tonight. Now I get to read this. We meet every Tuesday night starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for about an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with another untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the forward to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapse, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of the people joining us for the first time?
Well,
hey, there's Mr. Jim, welcome.
Lance.
And Lance, welcome. Sheila's here. I see ya.
Yeah, hi guys. I just a Sheila alcoholic. This is my second time, but I came in late last time, so I want to introduce myself. I'm Sheila, and I hope to be a regular. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Sheila. I hope you are too. Okay, can I have a show of hands who are recovered? And those are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week? I see Terry. What you got, sweetheart?
I got 28 years today. Today is the big day.
Oh my gosh, look at that. There's so many.
I gotta take a screenshot. Hold on. Let me take it with my phone. Because this iPad doesn't screen. Oh yeah, it might. I don't want to hold. There it is. Okay, got it.
Jerry.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's an accomplishment right there in itself.
Thank you.
Okay. If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent out to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time is questionable, since it is snail mail. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, and PayPal, or PayPal I should say, posted in the chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website, posted in the chat. Thank you, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, Donald.
Thank you, Donald. From Chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries for those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Okay, before we begin our study of the Big Book, last night we reviewed Tradition 3. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 4 and Billy. Oh, please refer to page 562 of Alcoholics Anonymous. Billy, you're on.
Hi, I'm an alcoholic. My name is Billy. Tradition 4. Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. With respect to its own affairs, each AA group should be responsible to no other authority than its own conscience. But when its plans concern the welfare of neighboring groups also, those groups ought to be consulted, and no group, regional committee, or individual should ever take any action that might greatly affect AA as a whole without conferring with the trustees of the General Service Board on such issues. Our common welfare is paramount. And I wasn't really sure what to say beyond that, but I found somebody else's words that I kind of, proofread it and thought, yep. The 4th tradition teaches me how to make decisions, whilst maintaining a good relationship with God and others. I used to make decisions based on what I thought other people would think. I wanted people to approve of the decisions I was making, or even better, for other people to make decisions for me. I was dependent on others, and this caused disharmony in my relationships. I learned in AA that instead of seeking approval from the world, I need only seek God's approval. I can practice this by asking God throughout the day what His will is for me. I then do my best to carry this out. My guide becomes the inner conscience rather than the noise of the material world. The 4th tradition also tells me that when making decisions that may affect others, I must consult with them. When I don't do this, I am at risk of playing God in my life. Instead of trying to push my agenda, I drop the agenda, take a step back, and listen to the group conscience. All of the traditions teach me that God's will is revealed through the group conscience. By consulting others, I get a few perspectives other than my own. I trust God by trusting the group. I like that Libby wrote this, and I found this on an Alcoholics Anonymous continental European region. page, and I kind of liked it. So, my own experience. Well, I've been in service for forever. And, I don't know that I've ever seen anything so, I don't know, that would have caused other groups any concern. I've seen activities happen in my group and other groups that I attend that were certainly concerning, and how the groups handled the events and well, actually, yeah. We had a thing in December happen here where a fellow member apparently was having a rough time. And, he didn't get to hardly any meetings during COVID because there weren't any face-to-face meetings, and he's not computer literate and doesn't want to be. And so he struggled greatly. And out of COVID, a lot of groups started adding a few new rules and stuff, like how long people could share for, that he wasn't aware of because he hadn't been around. And he was very frustrated and he wanted answers, but the way he went about it was rather violent. And a lot of the newcomers were scared because he was threatening specific individuals as well as everybody within range of his brand new boots. And a lot of people, it took us 6 months to come up with how we were going to deal with not just that, but any other threats to the safety and security of the group. And we asked other groups, how'd you do it? Because we knew some other groups locally had similar incidents, not with this one, but with other people over time. And so we sought their advice and their suggestions so that we could form our own group conscience on it. It was funny to me that, we were pretty much at the point of constructing what we were going to say, and people were offering lots of suggestions, and there was a lot of, don't do this, don't do that. And I said, I got to tell you guys, you're going to send people running, and we're going to have more events. We have to ask people to work with us, and we have to invite them to be part of the solution. So instead of don't do this, don't do that, we need, please help us maintain our group's safety and security for all members. If you're having a problem, we have volunteers that you can grab and take them out of the room and figure it out, unless you can wait till the end of the meeting, because we want to hear what you have to say without disrupting. I don't know exactly how we worded it, but we took all the negatives out and replaced them with positive comments, inviting. And it was a lot of work. It was a lot of meetings. It was a lot of extra group conscience meetings. The police were involved. Restraining orders were involved. It was a rough run for everybody. But I think we came out a bit better in the long run. So sometimes other groups can be sought out for help, not just, making decisions that would hurt other groups. But if that makes any sense to any of you, it made sense to me. So go with it or drop it, whatever, I don't care. That's my experience on this. This is a tough one to come up with examples on.
Well, you did wonderful.
Thank you, Billy. And now it's time for our weekly installment of That Ain't in the Big Book. And we hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as it's described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. What follows is one of the things we often hear, along with what the Big Book has to say on the subject. And one of the things that we hear in meetings is there are no musts in the program. Larry, could you come in and tell us what it says on page 159 in the third paragraph?
Though they knew they must help other alcoholics if they would remain sober.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Larry. In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight, we're going to start our recap on page XVII, and that will be read tonight by Nancy. And then that will be followed, our study portion will be read tonight by Jim.
Okay, after the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back where our study portion began. On page, study portion is going to be XXVI. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer, split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is we're going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer beep to let you know that your time is finished.
And it was brought up in our group conscience last night that we have gotten a little lax on the timer, so we will be bringing that back this evening. So when you hear the timer go off, just kind of wrap up what it is you're sharing on. And however, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example with your sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You could never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of our co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous: sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And how we arrived at this point, we didn't just randomly open up the book to the middle of the doctor's opinion and say, let's do this tonight. We are in our 5th year as a group, and we're on the 4th time going through the Big Book. We are a 96-week study because we've extended the traditions by 2 weeks because there's just so much stuff there. And we start on the title page where we find our first promise, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. And we read each page in line by line from the preface all the way through A Vision for You on page 194. We also read Dr. Bob's Nightmare, the traditions, and the spiritual experience, Appendix 2, 3 times within the study when the footnote refers us to, and then one last time as our final week of the study. Because, we get a lot of that focus on the spirituality that way. And then when we get to the end, we circle back and we do it all over again. So this week we are on week 6 of our 4th time going through the Big Book.
Okay. Before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so we can put it onto our website.
And Nancy, if you could come in with our recap, please.
Okay, Nancy Alcoholic. The doctor's opinion. We of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the reader will be interested in the medical estimate of the plan of recovery described in this book. Convincing testimony must surely come from medical men who have had experience with sufferings of our members and have witnessed our return to health. A well-known doctor, chief physician at the nationally prominent hospital specializing in alcohol and drug addiction, gave Alcoholics Anonymous this letter. Whom it may concern, I have specialized in the treatment of alcoholism for many years. In late 1934, I attended a patient who, though he had been competent businessman of good earnings capacity, was an alcoholic of a type I had come to regard as hopeless. In the course of his third treatment, he acquired certain ideas concerning a possible means of recovery. As part of his rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conceptions to other alcoholics, impressing upon them that they must do otherwise with still others. This has become the basis of a rapidly growing fellowship of these men and their families. This man and over 100 others appear to have recovered. I personally know scores of cases who were of the type with whom other methods had failed completely. These facts appear to be of extreme medical importance because of the extraordinary possibility of rapid growth inherent in this group. They may mark a new epoch in the annals of alcoholism. This man may well have a remedy for thousands of such situations. You may rely absolutely on anything they say about themselves. Very truly yours, William D. Silkworth, MD. The physician who, at our request, gave us this letter has been kind enough to enlarge upon his views in other statements which follows. In this statement, he confirms what we who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe, that the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind. It did not satisfy us to be told that we could not control our drinking just because we were well-adjusted to life, that we were in full flight from reality, or were outright mental defectives. These things were true to some extent, in fact, to a considerable extent with some of us. But we are sure that our bodies were sickened as well. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic which leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. The doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcohol interests us. As laymen, our opinion as to its soundness may, of course, be little, but as ex-problem drinkers, we can say that this explanation makes good sense. It explains many things for which we cannot otherwise account. Thank you. Next.
Me. And Jim, if you could come on in and read our study portion, please.
Hello, fellow travelers. Jim. Though we work out our solution on the spiritual as well as an altruistic plane, we favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who is very jittery or befogged. More often than not, it is imperative that a man's brain be cleared before he is approached, as he has then a better chance of understanding and accepting what we have to offer. The doctor writes, "The subject presented in this book seems to me to be of paramount importance to those afflicted with alcoholic addiction. I say this after many years' experience as medical director of one of the oldest hospitals in the country treating alcoholic and drug addiction. There was therefore a sense of real satisfaction when I was asked to contribute a few words on a subject which is covered in such masterly detail in these pages. We doctors have realized for a long time that some form of moral psychology was of urgent importance to alcoholics, but its application presented difficulties beyond our conception. What with our ultra-modern standards, our scientific approach to everything, we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of good that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. Many years ago, one of the leading contributors to this book came under our care in the hospital, and while here he acquired some ideas which he put into practical application at once. Later, he requested the privilege of being allowed to tell his story to other patients here, and with some misgiving, we consented. The cases we have followed through have been most interesting. In fact, many of them are amazing. The unselfishness of these men as we have come to know them, the entire absence of profit motive, and their community spirit is indeed inspiring to one who has labored long and wearily in this alcoholic field. They believe in themselves, and still more in the power which pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. Of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor, but this often requires a definite hospital procedure before psychological measures can be of maximum benefit. We believe, and as so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy, that the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all, and once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. If any feel that as psychiatrists directing a hospital for alcoholics we appear somewhat sentimental, let them stand with us a while on the firing line. See the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become a part of their daily work and even of their sleeping moments. And the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement. We feel after many years of experience that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them.
Thank you, Jim.
Welcome.
Terry? You're muted.
Okay. Okay, please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so we can put it onto our website. For answer readers, please speak clearly into your microphones. We will ask the questions from our script by Joe and Charlie and Crespi Clip. The answers to the questions will be sentence by sentence, coming directly out of this week's study, beginning with the first sentence and ending with the last one. Okay. And I apparently am on the wrong section here. You said we're on XXIII.
XVI. Though
XXVII. XXVII.
No, BI.
one eye.
Oh, I'm looking at, well, that's why, because I'm looking at the chat. Okay. Week 7, we did the recap. We're on week 7, correct?
Think so.
Okay, I am just so shut off now.
You want me to take the questions for you then?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Okay, this week's study, XXVI. Okay, our batting order is Nancy, William, Billy, Kenny. Okay, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought I saw Linda earlier. Okay, so I got 4. Okay, anybody else want to jump in?
That hand
Okay.
was up. I don't know what happened.
There she goes.
There she is.
Okay, there's Linda, Kenny. Okay, so batting order. Nancy, William, Billy, Kenny, and Linda. Okay, so let's start with Nancy. Do we favor hospitalization for the very sick alcoholics?
Though we work out our submission on the spiritual as well as an altruistic plane, we favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who is very jittery or befouled.
William, this one's for you. What is often necessary before we can begin to work with a person?
More often than not, it is imperative that a man bring the clear before his approach, as he has then a better chance of understanding and accepting what we have to offer.
Okay, so Billy, who should be interested in what is contained in this book?
And you need to unmute Billy.
Okay, there we go. The doctor writes, the subject presented in this book seems to me to be of paramount importance to those afflicted with alcoholic addiction.
Kenny, you got a 2-parter. What was Dr. Silkworth's position and his hospital specialized in what?
I say this after many years' experience as the medical director of one of the oldest hospitals in the country treating alcohol and drug addiction.
Thanks, Kenny. No, that's good. Linda, did Dr. Silkworth believe the material in this book was of sufficient substance to warrant his contribution?
There was, therefore, a sense of real satisfaction when I was asked to contribute to a few words on a subject which is covered in such masterly detail in these pages.
Okay, back to Nancy. What did Dr. Silkworth say that doctors believe to be of importance to alcoholics?
We doctors have realized for a long time that some form of moral psychology was the urgent importance to alcoholics, but its application presented difficulties beyond our conception.
William, 2-parter. With everything the medical profession had going for them, what were the doctors not equipped to do? And did he believe that the Wait, there's 2 parts.
No.
Did he believe that the medical profession had the ability to really help the alcoholic?
Oh.
What with our ultra modern standards, our scientific approach to everything, we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the power of good that lies outside our synthetic knowledge.
And I'm coming in with the first of 2 comments, and it says, notice the observation from the preceding 2 sentences.
Hey, Billy, what was it that one of the leading contributors, Bill W., of this book wanted to do with the ideas he had acquired?
Many years ago, one of the leading contributors to this book came under our care in this hospital, and while here, he acquired some ideas which he put into practical application at once.
Thank you. Kenny, another two-parter. What privilege did Bill request of Dr. Silkworth, and was Dr. Silkworth really supportive of the idea?
Later, he requested the privilege of being allowed to tell his story to other patients here, and with some misgivings, we consented.
Okay, okay, Linda, how did he feel about the cases that he reviewed after Bill W. did his thing?
The cases we have followed through have been most interesting. In fact, many of them are amazing.
Back to you, Nancy. How did Dr. Silkworth view recovered alcoholics?
The unselfishness of this man, as we have come to know them, the entire abstinence of profit motive, and the community spirit is indeed inspiring to one who has labored long and wearily in this alcoholic field.
William, what do recovered alcoholics believe in?
They believe in themselves and still more in the power to pull chronic alcoholic back from the gates of death.
And my second comment, on this page, Dr. Silkworth mentions moral psychology, followed by powers of good, and finally, power. He recognized our need for a higher power and expressed his acceptance of this fact in the foregoing fashion.
Okay, who was last up? Was that William?
Yeah, me. I was last.
Okay. Okay, so Billy, did Dr. Silkworth believe that hospitalization for the sick alcoholic is appropriate?
Of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor, and this often requires a definite hospital procedure before psychological measures can be of maximum benefit.
Kenny, another two-parter. What did Dr. Silkworth believe to be the cause of alcoholics' out-of-control drinking, powerlessness, and does this phenomenon exist with normal drinkers?
We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the actions of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy, that the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker.
Thank you. Linda, two-parter for you too. How much alcohol can a real alcoholic safely use? And once the alcoholic has passed into the hopeless state, what happens?
These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. And once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve.
Nancy, thank you, Linda. Can emotional pleading help an alcoholic see the truth?
Faulty emotional appeal seldom suffices.
William, what type of message can help an alcoholic?
The message was can interest in them, and all these alcoholic people must have depth in them.
Okay, Billy, two-parter for you. In what must the alcoholic's ideals be grounded, and since alcoholism destroys lives, what can happen if our ideals are grounded in a higher power?
In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives.
Kenny, what would cause psychiatrists to accept and recommend the AA program?
If any Many feel that the psychiatrist directing a hospital for alcoholics we appear somewhat sentimental. Let them stand with us a while on the firing lines, seeing the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let let the solving of these problems become part of their daily work and even their sleepy moments. And the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement.
Linda, last question is yours. What did Dr. Silkworth believe could do a more effective job in helping alcoholics?
We feel after many years of experience that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them.
Thank you, everyone. That went perfectly. Now we're going to open up the floor for sharing. If you have experience with the portion of the book that was just read, please feel free to share. A friendly reminder, as we share, profanity offends no one. We are open for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experience with this information, you're free to share. Okay, the meeting is open. Oh, there's a hand. Trish, are you calling on people or am I?
I can do it unless you want to.
No, go ahead. It's hard for me to see because of the glare.
Come on in, Larry.
Hey, I'm Larry. I'm alcoholic. Yeah, I'm always amazed at this portion. First of all, because as doctors, we see that Dr. Silkworth and his colleagues have worked tirelessly on this, working with alcoholics, and were, when it came to cases like ours, they were at a loss and could find no answers to help the chronic alcoholic. They knew the answer, because they said, except for in a few cases, I think it may have been Dr. Job, the one psychiatrist that talks about in this book, Jung. He said he told his patient, except in a few cases, where there were a few cases he knew that a spiritual experience helped them, but that was very, very few, and he himself could not make that happen. I've tried to make that happen, and I can't make it happen. And here we have Dr. Silkworth. They had the parts. They knew of the allergy. They knew of the mental obsession. They knew what the disease, the scientific part of the disease, but they didn't have the spiritual piece of the puzzle, and they couldn't make it happen. They were synthetic. It was scientific. It was science. And when Bill went to them, and I got to find the timer. I don't know where it is. When Bill went to him and saw, asked for his time to talk to some patients and the miraculous change that took place, of those cases, and the doctors, followed the cases. They were amazed, and when they told their colleagues, their colleagues just thought that they were sentimental. They had gone soft. They had went maybe off of the deep end a little bit, too religious, too soft in their field. And they said, if you would just come and work with the people we had to work with day in and day out, then you too would understand why we accept the work of these men who work tirelessly without motive of money and without any kind of other than the motive of trying to get these men sober, and that's the only thing that they want and the only motive they have. You would be impressed also, and you can see it in this letter, and it's just a beautiful written letter of this disease that these psychiatrists, Dr. Silkworth, and talking about him and his colleagues. That's all I got.
Thanks, Larry. Hi, Linda.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic. I just wanted to say, I like how they describe this program and how we operate, and they keep using the word altruistic. Altruistic, I was reading it, it says, is a character trait that describes an individual who is selfless, compassionate, and motivated by a desire to help others without expecting anything in return. An altruistic character is typically generous, empathetic, and willing to make personal sacrifices for the benefit of others. This trait is often associated with kindness, empathy, and a strong sense of social responsibility. And there is a social responsibility in AA. There really is. When they say to sponsor someone, that right there, you need to have all those traits. Even if you don't sponsor someone, if you reach out to a newcomer and you help them, that really does describe it, and as any doctor, they got to dissect things apart and they have to put labels to it. But that was like one of the best labels they could put for, AA and how we operate, because we do reach out to people, and it is selfless. We're not doing it for payment. I don't help a newcomer. I don't sponsor people. I don't do service for payment. I will never do it for payment. I remember one person said, well, why don't you get a job in the field of alcohol and drugs, because you're always doing service and, detoxes and this and that. I said, I will never, ever, ever get a job in this field. I said, because that's not, as far as with my career, that's not what I'm interested in. My AA and my employment is two different things. I will always do this without payment, and without some kind of benefit of what's in it for me. Someone had asked me to sponsor them, and I said, well, you'll be my second sponsee. And the reason why I don't have so many sponsees is because I don't have a need for self-validation. I don't have this big ego. This is not why I would sponsor someone. This is not why and the person that sponsored me for the very first time, that's not why she sponsored me, and she pointed that out to me. And that's one thing that I always kept. You sponsor someone because it's in your heart, because you know that you are helping another human being in their recovery. That you will sit up, be tired, but still listen to them. You're sacrificing your time and your sleep to listen to them. And just that time you're listening to them, you're talking to them, it can keep them from drinking. And we sacrifice ourselves in other ways too. So that was a very nice word to use for how we do our service and how we operate in AA. And I cannot stay sober. That's the spiritual aspect of this program. I can't stay sober if I am not helping another human being. As it says in the readings, it is insurance to sponsor someone, to help another. It is an insurance policy. It is an insurance. Keeps me sober. I can't stay sober unless I'm giving it away. And what I need to be giving away is tolerance, patience, kindness, not being judgmental, not being critical, not being mean, a person in time of need and hurting, that I would say something mean. No, that's not what it's about. There's certain things. Someone gave it to me, and it's a whole checklist of what's God, and what's AA, and then what's of the devil, something else. I have it on my wall, and it has a whole list, the good and the bad, and what's of the low. I think it's the lower power. That's what it says, and that's like a checklist. It's like a 10th step every day, and if I'm not giving something positive, put it that way, because I'm babbling now. If I'm not giving something positive, if I'm not giving recovery away, then I really don't need to open my mouth. I really don't need to approach a person. I'm not going to be 100% perfect all the time and positive all the time, but at least I can help another person and not hurt them, because that's not what recovery is. It's not my opinion. It's not what I think. It's what's in the book. Thank you for letting me share.
And who's next?
Yeah, it's pretty much all what stood out to me, the idea that this is at Town Hospital where Charlie was an entrepreneur, and Dr. Sipwood was a doctor, and Bill was the sick individual. Now they came up with this idea of asterisk. And my sponsor told me, when I asked my sponsor what would they want, my sponsor said, that's freely giving yourself and looking for nothing in return. And how you get that? I didn't have none of that when I came in Alcoholics Anonymous. Say practice, practice, practice. And that's how it happened to me. And then it came into mind that over here what it was talking about, what he said, about we feel for many years of experience that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the afteristic movement not growing up among us. And this 90 years later, man, we're in over 250 countries, and it meetings all over the place. Beyond their wildest dreams. The young guy. So I truly believe in the spiritual aspect of it, because I take I know I went to my doctor, and when I went to my doctor, I said, Doc, I don't hold my urine like I used to. And he reached up in his cabinet and he gave me 2 pills. I've been with the same doctor for 40-something years. So he reached up in his cabinet and gave me 4 pills and said, take that, So I trusted him. But I had some time to sit down in my car, so I began to read the side effects. This can make you bleed, it can make this and that, and the last one said it could kill you and stuff like that. So I was like, whoa. Do I trust my doctor like I used to? Now I have to start reading the side effects of this medicine that he's giving me, But I do trust my doctor, but I like the spiritual aspect of alcohol and helping another alcoholic. And the side effect if I don't contribute. And it's something for everybody to do. I learned this something. It's something everybody do what they do. Even it says in the 4th step in the 12, and 12 said, just put on the shoe that fits your feet. It's something you could give, contribute money, you could contribute your time, you could help somebody. And my sponsor started me off early on. My sponsor say, meet that new person at the door. Go to the door and greet people when they come in. Tell them where the bathroom is. Make them a cup of coffee. Do these little things, And as I began to do those things, I began to gradually feel a part of, and began gradually feel that I belong to, because it was about me first, And now it's about me and others, because I can't live without y'all, The newcomers, the old timers, the in betweens, everybody, I get a chance to reboot my spiritual engine from listening to everybody, because if this was a whack, I took a pill. They talk about synthetic, where you could take a pill and it was over, and that's what I wanted when I got here. I wanted to take some kind of pill and do some, and then it'll be over with. But thank God, as my recovery is slow and continuous and progressing on and on and on. So thank you for allowing me to be here. And good evening to everybody tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Who's next? Hi, Xavier. Good to see you.
Glad to be here, Xavier Alcoholic. Yeah, glad to be here tonight. Doctor's opinion. I love how every time I read this, I almost forget, and I kind of take for granted how special. Sorry about that, noise. How special it is to see alcoholism simplified so well. Like, to make it basic where I'm not morally a bad person, but rather I have a disease, whether I have a physical ailment, if I touch alcohol, I have this allergy and I can't stop drinking, and then I also have this mental obsession. And I start to really get introduced to the concept that I really am powerless. I mean, that's in itself so incredible. I could certainly see in my life, if I didn't understand this concept of powerlessness, and I kept thinking I was a power, and I kept looking at myself to quit, if I was morally stronger, if I tried harder, I could see myself, drinking myself to death, because I would continuously go to the wrong solution, because I would think it was me. And if I think I'm the solution, I don't really understand the problem. The problem's I'm powerless, physically and mentally. And once I can understand that I'm not the solution, I can go seek out the solution, whatever the heck it is. And then I have those other 11 steps to start to explore what that solution is. I really appreciate just how simplistic the doctor's opinion is, and how well it really introduces that concept. I also think I think from what I'm told, especially back then, like, doctors in society had a lot more authority than they maybe do today. And if a quote unquote doctor were to say something, perhaps like the average layman or non-doctor would take it more seriously. So I think that certainly gave a little more credibility to Alcoholics Anonymous back then, which is important. I'm sure it's helped save a lot of lives to have that initial authority, and have that trust in what Alcoholics Anonymous was saying was actually real. But yeah, I am very, very grateful for this chapter. I'm grateful for how simple they made these concepts. And that's all I got. So I'll pass. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Xavier. Who's next? I've got no hands. I will jump in. I'm Trish, and I'm an alcoholic. And, I like how in the beginning, Dr. Silkworth even admits, with our ultra-modern standards, our scientific approach to everything, we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of good that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. he was aware that he may not, as a doctor, be able to help the alcoholic. But then later on talked about the allergy, the manifestation of the allergy and that phenomenon of craving, and the realization that the message that we hear has to have depth and weight. So it's so much more effective to come from another alcoholic than to come from a doctor, a friend, a spouse, a coworker. But then he also mentions in the next sentence, in nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. So while Dr. Silkworth knew he had been working in the field of alcoholism for years, he had seen so much heartache there, but was also well aware that there was also a spiritual aspect, that we had to find our own higher power in order to help us to recover from this disease. When I came in, I thought it was a matter of willpower. I thought it was all me. Had never heard or understood, or it didn't compute that this is a disease. And I had to come in these rooms to recognize that. And that made it so much easier for me to accept that, yeah, there is a solution. And the solution is in this book, but the solution is, it's physical, it's spiritual, and it is mental. It's that threefold disease that Dr. Silkworth tells us about. But I had to have another alcoholic telling me what my problem was. I had to hear it from another alcoholic, because someone who didn't understand, someone who didn't speak my language, wasn't going to talk in a way that I could understand. And you know, and that's what they're talking about when it says the message that can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. It's not going to mean a thing to me as an alcoholic if you're trying to tell me I have to stop, but you don't know what it's like to stop. It's not going to mean a thing for me if you have book knowledge, but you don't have life knowledge and life experience to say, this is what you did. This is what your experience was. This is what you did. And it is possible to recover from this disease. And then the realization that I could go and get assistance from a doctor, maybe go to a detox or a rehab if needed. But I also ultimately had to find that power greater than myself, that higher power, in order to recreate my life. I didn't have the power to recreate my life. I had been trying to do that for years. I'd been trying to stop. I had been trying to do all sorts of things. I had shelves and shelves and shelves of all those self-help books that were so big back in the 80s. How I was going to help myself, how I was going to fix myself. But I had to come in here and learn the simplicity of this disease, the threefold disease, and finally recognize that I couldn't do it. We could do it together. You could help me. But ultimately, I had to find that higher power through these steps, through this book. And I'm so glad that Dr. Silkworth was willing to put his words at the beginning of this book and talk about how, he knew, he believed in what they were doing. He believed in the book. He believed in what Bill and Bob were doing and the others, but was also well aware that he couldn't necessarily help unless those who were coming to see him, or I'll put it in first person, my doctor could not have helped me until I wanted help. My friends could not have helped me until I wanted the help. I had to reach that bottom. I had to reach that point where I was willing to hear someone else say, there is help out there. And I had to be willing to reach out and get that help. And I am going to stop there. Hi, Alyssa. Come on in.
Hi, Trish. Alyssa, recovered alcoholic. I love this part of the reading. One of my favorite promises are in this reading, because it gives us the direction along with the warning. And that's, in nearly all cases, our ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves. So my ideals, I have to ground myself in a power greater than myself. But the warning is the must, because there's a lot of suggestions in this book, but I know those are the warnings. I have to heed to those. If I don't do those, I don't get the results. But if I do that, I get to recreate my life. And I've been able to do that. But first, I had to understand that I had the disease, and he explains that before this. That's so important to go through the big book, take somebody through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because it gives us everything we need. It gives us the warnings, the directions, and then if we follow the directions, it gives us the promises. And yes, there's promises in the doctor's opinion. And every time I read this, it's like, wow, because when I first came in, people had tried to get me to stop drinking for years. But I'm like, they didn't understand that I just can't stop. It just can't stop. The cravings and the mental obsession and it took somebody with depth and weight that I could relate to share their experience, strength, and hope with me, how they overcame the drinking. And my mind did have to be cleared. There's so many directions in here. Just in his letter, he suggests that our minds, it's imperative, before the letter, he says that it's imperative that our brains be cleared before we're approached, because we'll have a better understanding and accepting of what we have to offer. That's a direction for me as the recovered alcoholic to working with someone else. And this book is just a wealth of knowledge, and it's amazing that it doesn't matter how many times I read a passage, something else always hits me in a different way. And that is because I'm not depending on myself. I am depending on my higher power to guide me. It's never ending. I can stop learning if I choose to stop opening the book, if I choose to stop working with another alcoholic. But every time I open this book, every time that I work with someone else, more is always revealed. And that's because of the willingness, the honesty, and the open-mindedness. And that's the who. It's my higher power that allows for this to happen. And I have recovered from that seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. It's because I got an understanding of what the problem was. And then I was given the solution. And I took the action. And I continue to take the action on a daily basis. I get a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. This is maintenance right here. Spending time in the book. Listening to other people's experience, strength, and hope. This is it. And at the end of the day, life is really good. I don't have problems today. I get opportunities to apply the tools that I've been so freely given here, and it's amazing. Doesn't mean that every day is sunshine and rainbows, but at the end of the day, when I lay my head down, I'm truly blessed, and I don't have the desire to drink, and I don't have that desire to fill my selfish needs first. I'm always thinking of other people today before myself, and that's that was the real problem. But thank you for letting me share, and thank you for taking the meeting, Terry and Trish.
Thank you, Alyssa. Hi, Sheila.
Hi, everyone. Sheila Alcoholic. Thank you for the meeting, Trish. I'm kind of new, as you all know. I feel like I'm in the one-room schoolhouse where there's like kindergarten through high school in one room, and I would be the preschooler with you guys. So I'm going to share on just a concept from the first time, the spiritual and altruistic plane, and then the hospitalization. We favor hospitalization. That's like, the three sides to a triangle again, which would ultimately, they say that, who is very jittery or befogged. Well, in my experience, when I came in was to the rooms, I couldn't see straight. Of course, I was 50 years of alcoholism, and I was getting off. I was delusional. I was having hallucinations. I was sweating, shaking. I didn't have anybody left in my life. I had autumn, and the rooms, the altruistic and the spiritual is those were my platforms that saved my life. I didn't have any outside help, but it's just that basically, it mentions altruism, several times. The altruistic movement is contributing more to the rehabilitation than anything, and that would be the rooms, the love in the rooms, the selflessness, the giving, the passing the message, sponsorship, service, and that's what I needed, and that worked for me. And I have, gone to meetings every day, got involved in service right away, but I'm not sure if you're going to cut me off or not, but I wanted to just point that out, and it does say, some of us are, I couldn't have it. No, it wasn't that I didn't want it or couldn't ask for it, but I got clear-headed through just a process of being in the rooms, coming every day, getting a patient sponsor. I became clear-headed, and it was the spiritual and the altruism, and it did work for me. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Good to have you here with us. Who's next? Hi, Nancy.
Nancy, alcoholic. Yeah, I like the doctor's opinion. And for me, I started getting, before I used to when I go to meetings, I always look at the differences of people. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's no Asian people here, so there's no alcoholic. I'm not even an alcoholic, but then I used to ask myself, what's wrong with me? Things that I do are not normal. But when I read Dr. Silkworth's letter, it made me feel like, oh my gosh, I do have a problem. It's not just that something is wrong with me. It's a disease that can be treated, And and that's one of the first things that I could relate to in the book. And by having that connection, I was able to start my program, learn how to live the way it is outlined in this book, and with this sponsor helping me go through every part of my recovery, and the people in AA also, and all that. And I am grateful that Bill and Bob. Bill went to Dr. Silkworth at the beginning, because without that, we wouldn't have this book. And every time I touch this book, I feel grateful, because we're all here because of it. It's not like, oh, it can be on the shelf just sitting over there and doing nothing. But we have to live this. And it's like, you have to read it every day. And it's like, even though I finished reading it, I go back and read it again. Like this workshop. We finished four times already, and we're starting again. And it's like, only because every time I read and share with this thing. It's like there's always something different that comes out, you know, and there's always something different that I get to hear from you guys, you know, and yeah, thank you for starting this group again. It's really very important to all of us. That's it.
Thank you, Nancy. Who's next? Would our birthday girl like to come in? We've got time for one more. Art, would you like to take us out?
Hi everybody, my name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. And yeah, this section of the doctor's opinion that tells us about the allergy and the phenomena of craving, I think is really important. It was one of the things that in my early sobriety I had no idea what an alcoholic was. And this allowed me to understand some of my own behavior that I didn't understand. I couldn't figure out what's wrong with me. And it helps me to understand that. See, I had a number of occasions when I had every intention of having a couple beers and go home. And occasionally that would happen, but more often I would find myself pounding on the bar again. And what happened? It's already 10 o'clock. And then the thinking turned into an excuse. And the way I thought was, well, I'm already in trouble for being late, so I might as well be 4 hours is 3. Have another beer. And I can't tell you how many times that happened, but I didn't understand why. I couldn't understand until I read this, that when that phenomenon of craving takes over, I lose control. I lose the ability to make a choice, whether to take another one or not to. And it states quite plainly that this does not happen with moderate drinkers or people who may overdo it occasionally but are not alcoholic, not chronic alcoholics. That phenomena of craving is something that's peculiar to we alcoholics. And this helped me to understand that behavior. I couldn't figure it out, you know. Even in cases, in instances where I had a serious reason for not doing that, and it still happened. And I said, why? What's wrong with me? And this explains it very clearly. that I have a condition that is unique to alcoholics. And so it was necessary for me to understand before I could accept that I was really an alcoholic, and that was the first step. It took me a long time to get there. But this was what was the bit of information that was missing when I was out there trying to control my drinking. So, thank you.
Thank you, Art. Jerry, would you like to come in and read out our closing?
Sure. Let me get back to here. Okay. Thank you, everybody. That was a great meeting. Okay. From page 164 of our big book. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you could do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is a great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understood God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God keep you, may God bless you and keep you until then. And we're going to close with a moment of silence for the alcoholic who still suffers. In this group, we can't hold hands physically, so we raise our hands to join together in prayer and in silent meditation for the alcoholic that still suffers out there. And there are millions of them. So after a moment of silence, please. Okay. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.